Whether it was a high school presentation, a failed business venture, or a big-budget Hollywood film, we all have that one project we'd just rather forget.
Well, our love is stronger than that, right, Scotty? Scotty?
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 movies disowned by their directors.
You will not take me seriously, lady. You are causing me friggin' torment.
For this list, it doesn't really matter whether these movies were box office hits or critical and financial flops. And while the films do not need to be officially disowned, the directors should have felt at least some sort of disdain or discomfort with the final product. Or perhaps refused to promote the film in question or disrespected it in public. The only movies we're excluding are the versions of the films that were edited for TV, from which directors frequently have their names removed due to the excessive cuts made to suit television censorship rules.
No, no, no!
Why are you so insecure you can't take any suggestions?
It's awful. It's terrible. You've sodomized it.
Number 10, Woman Wanted, Kiefer Sutherland.
When I did see him, I always wanted to look at him and say, "Hey, man, what about Wendell?"
In terms of critical and box office success, most directors have a range of films to their credit. Not every film can be a modern classic, and that's understandable. But when a director disowns a film, it usually signals a pretty abysmal end result.
Well. Judgment Day.
Unfortunately for Kiefer Sutherland, when you're a well-known actor directing a film and you star in the film, it's hard to successfully distance yourself from the stench of failure, even if you use a pseudonym.
Wendell?
This indie drama, about a maid and her relationship with a widower and his son, was Kiefer Sutherland's second time directing a film, after Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. And needless to say, Woman Wanted officially ended that career path once and for all.
Hi. We got married.
Number 9, Solar Crisis, Richard C. Sarafian.
Looking good, Freddie. How you feeling?
Terrible. The suspension coils need to be reduced to 2.3%.
In the year 2050, a huge solar flare is predicted to destroy the Earth. So, astronauts are sent to redirect the flare using a bomb. With a reported budget of $55 million and Charlton Heston in a lead role, it should have been a straightforward sci-fi popcorn flick.
Shut off that oxygen! Get that valve shut down! The servo had no air!
No one would have walked in expecting Planet of the Apes or walked out calling it a masterpiece, but it should have been a fun ride.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
What went wrong? Apparently, Solar Crisis was just plain bad in the most straightforward way, and it hardly received a theatrical release.
What are you guys, crazy? You almost killed us here! What's going on here?
Though Richard C. Sarafian wasn't a well-known director, most recognizably having directed episodes of The Twilight Zone and the 60s Batman series, he nonetheless asked to have his name removed from this bomb.
If this ship blows, at least I'll have the satisfaction of watching this come out by the roots.
Number 8, Accidental Love, David O. Russell.
I will never forget the first day you skated up to my motorcycle.
Lots can go wrong in the movie-making process, and in this film's case, absolutely everything did.
But you're never gonna get that bill passed until you're dead, either from that thing in your head or from your old age, okay? And I care about you a lot, and I don't want to see you die.
David O. Russell is a critically lauded, but notoriously difficult filmmaker to work with.
Hey, bitch! I'm not here to be f***ing yelled at. I worked on this f***ing thing for 3 f***ing years, not to have some f***ing yell at me in front of the f***ing crew when I'm trying to f***ing help you, bitch!
But it doesn't seem like he was the culprit behind this problematic production. Cast and crew walked off set because they weren't being paid, one union withdrew support, and crucial scenes weren't filmed in protest against the studio.
Wait! She has no insurance. Shut it down.
The film, which followed a woman who couldn't afford medical treatment after being shot in the head with a nail gun, was left unfinished and changed ownership a number of times. Millennium Entertainment finally bought it in 2014 and somehow stitched an edited version together. When Russell found out, he requested his name be removed, for obvious reasons.
Man, I love the woods! And the woods loved me!
Yeah.
It feels so good to cry!
Number 7, Hellraiser IV, Bloodline, Kevin Yagher.
Make us put some paint on you.
Pain? How dare you use that word?
You know a film production has gone seriously wrong when the original creator, Clive Barker, severs all ties with the franchise.
For God's sake. Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Kevin Yagher was a successful special effects technician, specializing in horror, when he signed on to direct this film. He was so frustrated by studio involvement, though, which included major script changes mid-production, that he quit, with another uncredited director finishing the job.
There are more humans alive at this moment than in all its pitiful history.
Yagher, naturally dissatisfied with the finished product, submitted a request to the Directors Guild of America to have Alan Smithee credited as the director, which is a pseudonym that can only be used if the original director can prove that his or her creative control was excessively limited. Poor Pinhead.
A lesson, princess. Work with me or for me.
Number 6, Fear and Desire, Stanley Kubrick.
There is war in this forest. Not a war that has been fought, or one that will be, but any war.
It's strange to see a film by one of the greatest, most respected, and influential directors in cinematic history on this list. So what happened here exactly? This was Stanley Kubrick's first feature film. And legendary director or not, the first film is always a learning experience.
Once you understand how a mousetrap works, if you're clever enough, you can use it as a springboard.
The movie, a variation on the theme that war is hell, was not a bad one by any stretch, but it was definitely flawed, clearly bearing the mark of an untested filmmaker.
It wasn't my fault. The magician did it. Honest.
But it also shows Kubrick's astonishing sense of composition, among other stylistic traits the director would go on to be known for. In his own words, however, it is nothing more than a, quote, bumbling amateur film exercise.
Well, we have nothing to lose but our futures.
Number 5, Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher.
Let's kick some ice.
Most directors on this list place all the blame on the studio. Joel Schumacher might be the only director in history to disown a film in such a self-deprecating, apologetic manner.
This is why Superman works alone.
Honestly, we feel bad for the guy. Batman Forever was not a great movie, but we accepted the fact that it was a return to Batman's campier origins. Two-Face and the Riddler were fun to watch. Kids loved it, and ultimately, it made a killing.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
Before this film, Schumacher had a strict no-sequel rule. A rule that, with the studio throwing money at him, he unfortunately broke for Batman and Robin.
My name is Freeze. Learn it well, for it's the chilling sound of your doom.
What we got was one big toy commercial hated by anyone over the age of 7. Well, at least he said sorry.
If I disappointed them in any way, then I really want to apologize, because it wasn't my intention. My intention was just to entertain them.
Number 4, Fantastic Four, Josh Trank.
My bad, are you okay?
Prior to the release of this film, director Josh Trank allegedly sent out an email to cast and crew, in which he wrote he was confident that the finished product was, quote, better than 99% of the comic book movies ever made. Apparently, one unspecified cast member simply responded with, quote, I don't think so.
Victor, we're not gods. We're just people.
Josh Trank has since changed his tune, all but disowning the movie publicly via Twitter and blaming the studio for any and all issues.
I'm no good to you, to anyone. This is all my fault.
That we can agree on.
This film was widely publicized as one of the biggest train wreck productions in film history, and many question whether any studio will let Trank near a major film again. Either way, it reportedly already cost him the Star Wars film he was set to direct.
I'm sorry. That's what you said when you left.
Number 3, Dune, David Lynch.
Must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Frank Herbert's wonderfully strange space epic, like so many science fiction works, proved daunting to adapt. 3 previous attempts were made, including a script with Ridley Scott attached to direct.
Forgive me. They must have killed her.
Please excuse me if I can't talk about it.
Thanks to Eraserhead and The Elephant Man, David Lynch was the new master of strange and unnerving cinema, and seemingly the perfect choice.
Emperor! We come for you!
In reality, Lynch signed on with no knowledge of the source material, and by his own admission, was indifferent towards sci-fi. Hilarious considering George Lucas asked him to direct Return of the Jedi.
I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you.
You already have.
Lynch resented the studio interference and budgetary concerns, and ultimately felt his vision was constrained, all of which led to a film that many critics call, quote, incomprehensible.
Bless the maker in his water. Bless the coming and going with him. May his passing cleanse the world.
After distancing himself from the project, Lynch also disavowed an edited-for-TV version of the film released 4 years later.
Long live the fighters!
Number 2, an Alan Smithy film, Burn, Hollywood, Burn. Arthur Hiller.
Shall we do it again? Do it again? What are you talking about? They nailed it.
Thanks to Hellraiser, we're all familiar with the Alan Smithy credit and the important role it plays in Hollywood film productions gone awry.
$212 million and Smithy had it in his hands.
Burn, Hollywood, Burn was conceived as a satire of the big-budget film industry and the frustrating artistic experience directors face in trying to make a film under the thumb of major studios, who insist on interfering. Honestly, this film is like Christopher Nolan's Inception as applied to films being disowned by their directors.
That bloody bastard took it from me and bloody well cut it himself. He gave it to the bloody studio and that stupid bloody dwarf said thank you.
Arthur Hiller famously hated the film so much, as a result of, you guessed it, the studio intervening and re-editing, that in a decision almost too ironic to be true, he insisted on taking the Alan Smithy credit.
Are you quite certain? I think it can be better.
Better. Please, would you talk to this idiot?
Before we unveil our top pick, here are some honorable mentions.
My brother's got 2 days to live and we don't even know where he is.
This is not gonna work.
Whoa!
Wait a minute, fellas. I think we should just take a minute here and talk.
I'm not convinced we shouldn't blow it out the closest airlock.
You can't be serious. You have any idea what you're saying?
What's wrong?
They're all dead.
Sources report the destruction in Kyrgyzstan of a 1,000-year-old convent, one of the oldest continually functioning convents in Central Asia.
Number 1, Alien 3, David Fincher.
You're crazy.
It started with 2 great directors, Ridley Scott and James Cameron, producing 2 landmark films.
Get away from her, you bitch!
With the name David Fincher attached as the director for the 3rd installment. You'd think they'd be 3 for 3. Unfortunately, the respected director of Seven and Gone Girl does not remember his first feature film fondly.
Don't be afraid. I'm part of the family.
In his late 20s, the studio saw his potential, but lacked faith in him, and micromanaged the entire film. Not only did the studio cut 30 minutes of footage Fincher called, quote, crucial to the narrative, they also changed his ending.
He has to die. So somebody has got to kill me. Are you up to it?
Fincher conceived of Ripley's death as a peaceful one, calm and purposeful. By adding a chest burster against his wishes, the studio essentially gutted his meaningful ending and his film. Do you agree with our list?
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any other major films famously disowned by their directors?
Ain't no brother wasn't bad, okay?
For more curious top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Good night.